Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 390 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by former heavyweight world title challenger Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing this week, my man?
I'm doing great, Joe. How about you?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. Always good when speaking with you. Let's dive straight into the review part of the show. This one took place at the York Hall Bethnal Green last Friday, March 31st. Friend of the show, Harlem Eubank topped the bill, now 17-0, a unanimous decision there over 10 rounds against Miguel Antin, who is now 20-12 with a draw. Antin only had about 24 hours, 48 hours notice for the fight, so to think that he actually went 10 rounds was quite incredible. He should be proud of himself, actually. He was down in round 6 and round 7, but Harlem Eubank couldn't put him away. Yeah, that is it's a bad look for Eubank, to be honest with you. I really expected he'd get him out of there. So yeah, on to the next one. Nonetheless, you know, I like Harlem a hell of a lot. Really good guy, and it's just one of those things. I think he would have probably preferred to get a stoppage. Probably should have got a stoppage, but he didn't get it. You can't always get it, of course, and it's not like he bangs people out all the time. I don't think he's a massive puncher, really. So maybe I was, asking too much in my mind of him. On the undercard, Abbas Barao, now 13-1. A TKO for him in round 3 against Ferenc Katona, who's now 11-10 with 3 draws. Katona down in the first. And his corner through the towel in round 3. Harry Scarf on the card as well. This one was always going to go to points. It really was. I mean, I feel like the whole week of boxing in a whole was quite predictable, to be honest. I think, if anyone bets on boxing, I think it was quite an easy kind of week, really. I don't know what the odds were saying in terms of were they, profitable or good prices, but a lot of the things I thought would happen ended up happening, and Harry Scarf against Jordan Dujon, for that one to go the distance, I mean, it was just printing money, really. But Harry Scarf wins on points. He's now 12-2, a unanimous decision over 8 there against Jordan Dujon, who's now 8-2. Yeah, it was what it was, really. A bit of a strange kind of way that they had the running order as well on Channel 5 last weekend. Moving now, though, to the big one. It took place at the O2 Arena in Greenwich, London, United Kingdom. I watched this one in a pub, which I don't think I've ever done when working, I guess, because I watched the... he's working a bit of a stretch, maybe. But, when I watch boxing, I don't like to have a drink. I don't like to really, be around too many people. I like to, just sit in front of the TV or be there, of course, in person and just, I'm focused on what I'm seeing in front of me. And I never go to like a pub or anything with people. But me and one friend of mine, we went to this pub because obviously DAZN is now a TV channel. So we went and watched it there. And it was really kind of... fun to be there. And anyway, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but anyways, really, really good card, I thought, but a lot of very predictable things. I did say I felt Campbell Hatton would get the knockout against Lewis Fielding. He did. He's now 11-0. Lewis Fielding now 10-8. It was a brilliant body shot in the first round, actually. Left hook to the body, one that I'm sure Ricky would have been proud of. John Hedges on the card as well. Once again, another predictable points win for him. He's now 8-0. It was a 8-round fight there. He was able to beat Daniel Bosianski, who's now 11-3. Jordan Flynn, again, quite predictable. I think maybe he's only got one KO win. But yeah, Kane Baker is always game, and he showed up. and Jordan Flynn got the better of him there over 8 rounds, so a points win over 8. He's now 9-0. Moving up the card once more, Fabio Wardley. Again, we all thought he'd probably knock out Michael Polite Coffey. The stoppage wasn't a good one, though. I mean, we can go on about that one all day. It was quite a poor stoppage, really. It was for the vacant WBA Continental Heavyweight title. Fabio Wardley now 16-0. Michael Polite Coffey now, in a terrible position with his record 13-4. Like I said, the stoppage was awful, but the writing was on the wall. I think Wardley was taking his time. It was quite a lackluster fight really through the first few rounds. Like, either guy weren't really throwing many shots, and Michael Polite Coffey was quite happy to kind of sit in his shell and try and counter off the ropes, just stuff like that. It wasn't that imaginative. And when Wardley put a few good shots together, the referee jumped in. I don't think Coffey was in massive trouble, but a lot of the shots were making his head snap back, and the referee just jumped in. I think it was a little bit too soon. Galal Yafai, I thought this one could have gone the distance, but he was probably the one thing I didn't see happening. A 4th round TKO win against Moises Calleros, who is a bit of a veteran. He's now 36-11 with a draw, but Cal Yafai 4-0, 3 KOs, I believe. I thought it would go long. And I didn't expect it to be over with that quickly, but I think he made quite an easy night's work of Moises Calleros. So good stuff for Galal Yafai, who just doesn't want to waste any time really, just wants to whiz straight to the top and get a world title shot. Elsewhere on the card, another guy that I'm sure will be knocking on the door real soon, Austin Amo Williams. Once again, I expected him to get the knockout against River Wilson Bent. He did. He's now 14-0. River Wilson Bent is 14-3 with a draw. Wilson Bent down in round 7, and then his corner threw the towel in round 8. I missed the first few rounds of that because I got to the pub a bit late. But from what I could see, he's a tough guy, River Wilson Bent. Certainly didn't come to lay down or anything, He got in there, and even the bits I did see towards the later part of the fight, he was all blooded and everything, but he was still having a good go. And like I say, I think his corner did the right thing, really. Saved him for another day. Threw the towel in. I think he was in a position where he wasn't going to win the fight. He was just taking a bit of a hiding, and for a bit too long. And then, getting on to the main event, Anthony Joshua now 25-3. A unanimous decision over 12 rounds against Jermaine Franklin, Eddie, who's now 21-2, still hasn't been knocked out. We said that Anthony Joshua needed a destructive performance. I said that Anthony Joshua hadn't knocked anyone out in the first half of a fight for over 6.5 years, and for that reason I thought it would go late. And I'm not sure if I said it on the podcast, but I certainly said it to a few friends. I said, I tell you what, that price there for Anthony Joshua to win on points by decision was 4-1. And for me, I thought that looks like a tasty price. But anyway, forget about the betting and all of that for a minute. Eddie, what did you make of his performance? Has he impressed you in any way?
It's hard to say that he didn't do well in certain spots. But I think those losses had an effect on his mind, 100%. You can see, and I can't get his name on my head in my mind right now. Jermaine Franklin was kind of into it and trying to get him to be a bit emotional and to kind of remember the difficulty he had with Usyk and some of the other fights. He caught him with some decent shots, to be fair, at times, but. And Franklin he did good. He did some good things. But Joshua, you could see he was pretty much controlling it. There were some rounds you could have gave to Franklin, and I kind of see what his new trainer's doing. He's trying to get him a little bit, obviously trying to get him more confident in his jab. Which honestly, that was a lot better than what I've seen in the past. He really utilized the educated jab, especially I think going toward the middle rounds to late. He started to pump it out a little bit more and create a little more distance between him and Franklin, which was good. I do think, and I think he needed to really light him up. if he didn't stop him, he needed to just leave no doubt. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think there was much doubt in who was winning, but Franklin was really making him not look like a world beater. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like after that fight we're going, oh yeah, Anthony Joshua's back. He's going to demolish the next guy he fights. There's still a bunch of question marks about him. And most people that I bet, I haven't even seen the people talk about it, but I'll guarantee that most people was thinking, well, if he wanted to fight Fury after that performance, it's not going to go too well, and not only would they not favor him, but they wouldn't even think it would be a fight. And that performance didn't say, oh, well, he'll be, he's back, or he'll be a real challenge for him. And I think that's what he needed I think he needed that. But this was the first fight with a new trainer and new concepts to what he's trying to do. He's trying to, you can see him trying to incorporate some things that maybe he didn't do before. Work out, like he's trying to work range a little bit, trying to get a little more comfortable, I guess, even defensively. I don't know. It's just, now that I think back on what I was expecting him to do and hoping that, he would be able to do it. I mean, well, if I'm a fan of his, which I'm not saying I am or I'm not, but I would hope he would, if I was supporting him, that he would go in and just destroy the guy. But this is boxing. You can't just, expect at the elite level that you're going to be able to do that, especially with a tough guy like this Franklin. So, but even if he couldn't do it, you would still expect him to win in a better fashion than he did. And, it's, like I said, it's hard to, put those expectations on him, especially with a new trainer and, trying to understand concepts that may be foreign to him. So I'm not going to sit here and just be too critical on him. But if he's trying to get back to the heavyweight championship of the world, he's going to need better. And, him talking about getting there with Tyson, I even heard Joe Joyce's name. I think they were saying he was talking about, and a couple other guys. I don't know if he wants to even go in that direction, if it's because it's only going to get tougher. And, of course, he's been to the top of the mountain, but, he's a little bit older. Like he's doing some new things. It's not going to be easy to adjust. And it's like I said, the road is going to be difficult. So, I mean, all the best to him. I'm hoping that, he lands on his feet. But, man, it's going to be a tough road.
Yeah, I think it is going to be a tough road. Yeah, I mean, it was a strange performance from Anthony Joshua. You alluded to it as well, and a lot of people are saying the same thing, that he doesn't really seem to be that same fighter. There's a lot of doubts in his mind. He seems to be perhaps even a bit gun shy. It was a very interesting start to the fight, I think, really, what we saw the first 3-4 rounds. Joshua just looked really cagey, and obviously Franklin was more willing to let both of his hands go. Joshua was barely letting his right hand go, just staying behind the jab, looking a bit nervous even perhaps. I did give Franklin a few of the early rounds, and like I say, I was quite surprised as well by how easily he was able to back Joshua up. Joshua did obviously go on to start controlling the distance and stuff, and holding the center of the ring around about the midway point throughout the fight, and was starting to have more success finally. And then Franklin, his head movement started to kind of vanish, and Joshua, like I say, started to take over from that point onwards. I think Franklin had a good start to the fight, and Joshua obviously had a good middle and a good finish. But I don't really want to go in on it too much. I wasn't that surprised. I mean, I actually, like I say, I was telling people 4-1 is a good price, and I really would have been surprised if he'd have blown him away quite quickly. And for that reason, I don't think Franklin's all that bad. So I'm not one of those guys that say, oh wow, this performance here, he is finished, he needs to retire, like all these critical people like to be on social media. But something isn't. He doesn't quite look the same fighter. He wasn't. I mean, he landed it a couple of times, but we didn't really see that uppercut with that spite that he likes to whip in a lot. That's one of his best shots. And just kind of a bit gun shy is probably the word. A bit gun shy, especially early on. When he was not letting that right hand go. It was just like, wow. And he got hit as well with some really nice looking shots, like you said, from Franklin. yeah, just doesn't seem to be the same fighter. Probably got some kind of confidence issues, perhaps. And I think it was even Barry Hearn, who obviously is the mastermind really behind Matchroom. He actually, if I'm not mistaken, he was the one who said, if it was up to me, I'd be telling Joshua, do not take the Fury fight next. I don't know if I'm taking that out of context, but I'm pretty sure I saw that as a headline to a video. I don't know if it was just clickbait or whatever, but yeah, he is in a tough position. They're talking about, I think, 3 different opponents next. I think they said Dillian White, Otto Wallin, or someone else. Can't remember who the other one was. I reckon they're going to throw him in with Dillian White. I really do, and it's a fight that I don't think anyone wants to see, but, you know, go on, Eddie.
It was Joe Joyce.
Joe Joyce, yeah, never going to happen. Sorry, is that what you was going to say? I thought you were going to say something else. If you didn't have anything else, Eddie, it's fine.
No, what I was going to say was a couple of things you were mentioning at the time, but I didn't want to stop you in the middle of it. But yeah, when you were saying about how gun shy he was, not really confident on his offense going, and another thing I really wanted to mention, and I didn't mind it. I understand there's a part of boxing and a part of him getting his getting in a situation where you don't allow him to get his stuff off. But a lot of the holding and stuff like that at certain times when the fight was starting to heat up a little bit, which is not like I said, it's not a bad tactic to use, but when you utilize it as much as he was, there was actually a point where he wasn't throwing almost really much of anything. Every time Franklin came in, he would look to hold and then maybe get a little sneaky shot on the inside to try to catch him. But that was kind of irritating me a little bit watching it. But once it started to get a hold of the jab, then it kind of definitely moved in his favor. But that holding thing, I've seen a few fights like that recently where guys are using the clinch a little bit too much and overused it. And a lot of times the refs weren't really getting in on it. They got to start saying something about that. I really think that's if it's MMA, if you want to do MMA, that's fine. But if this is boxing, at the end of the day, clinching is something, when you need to do it, you do it. And it is a tactic, but it shouldn't be overutilized.
There we go, Eddie, not a fan of MMA. No, I make you right. Moving on to the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Tulsa, Oklahoma, USA on ESPN Plus. This top-ranked show, we saw Robeisy Ramirez headline. He's now 12-1. It was a unanimous decision against friend of the show, former WBO Super Bantamweight World Champion Isaac Dogboe, now 24-3. Again, quite predictable. Obviously, I really wanted Dogboe to win. I'm sure everyone that listens to this show knows I get on really well with Dogboe. But it was always going to be a tough ask, like I've said so many times. Hasn't really looked his old self since moving up to featherweight. And Robeisy Ramirez is obviously a boxer tricks who, at this point, no one is really seeming to be able to deal with. So, yeah, he had a lot in his arsenal. We saw it, but also he stepped up as well to a level that he hadn't yet stepped up to as a pro. So it was quite an interesting fight. Obviously, Ramirez won it, but there was a lot of close rounds that I think Ramirez just pinched, unfortunately. So the scorecards in the end, if I'm not mistaken, were quite wide. I don't have them in front of me at the moment, but yeah. So Ramirez now the WBO World Featherweight Champion. Dogboe down in round 12, but Dogboe, landed some brilliant shots on Ramirez, and I think that's what makes Ramirez quite exciting. Obviously, like we say, Cubans have got that reputation. They're hard to hit. They're really, really difficult to work out. I think he's quite an exciting Cuban, and you can hit him as well, which I think makes him even more exciting. But yeah, he got the job done. Credit to him. And Isaac Dogboe, it's another really kind of unflattering performance in a row for him, and you've got to go back about 5 or 6 fights in a row. It seems like perhaps maybe could be over the slide, but like I say, I hope I'm wrong. Really, really love the guy. On the undercard as well, Joet Gonzalez now 26-3. Once again, quite predictable. A unanimous decision against the very tough Enrique Vivas, who's now 22-3. Also on the undercard, we saw Jahi Tucker move to 10-0, double figure wins for him. He was deducted a point though from hitting on the break in round 4, and he was able to beat Nicolas Shekniashvili, who I'm definitely saying his surname wrong, but hopefully he doesn't hear it and doesn't want to hit me for it. He's now 8-2. Also on the undercard, Jeremiah Milton, the heavyweight, moved to 9-0. A unanimous decision there over 8 rounds against Fabio Maldonado of Brazil in search of win number 30, but he didn't get it. He's now 29-7. Maldonado as well deducted a point for a headbutt in round 6 and a point for holding in round 8. And also on the card to finish it off, Emiliano Vargas, now 4-0, a knockout win for him in 2 rounds against Edgar Uval, who's now 3. I'm saying all of these records wrong. 2-4, sorry, with 2 draws. Edgar Uval, 2-4 with 2 draws. And moving now to the final card to mention, it's a sad one. It took place at the Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, USA. Over here, Roy Jones Jr., friend of the show, living legend, now 66-10. He's racked up his 10th loss there, a majority decision loss to UFC vet and boxing debutant Anthony Pettis. It was 8 rounds there at cruiserweight. I heard it was going to be at heavyweight. I'm not sure what happened. It ended up being at cruiserweight, 199. And obviously Roy Jones Jr. racks up another loss. Hopefully getting to 10 losses will make him decide not to continue fighting. We don't want to see this carry on. But anyway, that brings part 1 to a close. The final thing for me to do is to welcome this week's special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the top super middleweight contender, but more importantly, the Islington icon. It is, of course, Mr. John Ryder. John, welcome back on the show, my man.
Thank you for having me, Joe. It's nice to be back. You're still not let up on the Islington icon. I love it.
So, John, we last spoke back in October. At that time, you were getting ready to fight Zach Parker. Haven't spoke to you in an interview since then. I was at the fight. I was ringside. Obviously, you were winning the fight for sure at the point of the stoppage. Zach retired on his stool after 4, citing that hand injury. You looked super duper angry when the fight was called by his corner / him, whatever it was. Talk me through that fight, John, if you don't mind.
Mate, you know what? I just like you say, I felt like I was on top. I felt like I was winning and winning well. I felt like the writing was on the wall. I think that for the third or fourth round, I really started turning the screw, and I thought the writing was on the wall. And I mean, once that came about, like they was withdrawing him, I didn't really know where the fight was going from there. I didn't know if it'd go to like judge's scorecard or what. And I don't know how the judge would have had it, like being on a away show. So I was a bit like, they're trying to fuck me here, do you know what I mean? But obviously, all's well ends well, and we got the deserved win.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, on to the next one. May the 6th in Mexico, you'll be boxing for the undisputed super middleweight world titles against Canelo Alvarez. Firstly, what an unbelievable opportunity for you here, John. In recent years, and to be honest, not just recent years, but your whole career, nothing's been given to you on a plate. You're probably the most improved fighter in British boxing, and I don't think anyone can begrudge you this opportunity, surely.
No, I think I've paid my dues to this sport. I've got myself back from the brink and back into contention. And listen, I know now I deserve this shot. It's not been given to me. It's not been handed to me on a plate. I worked hard over and over again to get into this position. And listen, I deserve this. And come May 6th, I'm gonna take what I truly deserve to be mine.
And what's the reaction been like from your fans, your friends, your family to this fight being signed and sealed, John?
People think I'm crazy for the thing of like putting it out there of going to Mexico, but like I think give a champion respect. If you want to fight a champion and beat a champion, you kind of expect to go to their backyard. And I know he does most of his fighting in Vegas, but I know it was said that he won the homecoming. And listen, to take an opportunity like this, you would fight anywhere.
Yeah, no, I get that completely. And John, surely commercially and financially, this is the biggest fight that you could have ever been involved in any point of your career, quite honestly.
No, the rematch will be even bigger.
Tell me how you see the fight playing out, John.
Man, just envisage it, just me, my hand being raised at the end. whether it comes by KO or points. I think that I've got it in my arsenal to stop him, to outbox him. I believe in boxing. I think timing is everything, and listen, I feel like I'm coming off my career best year, whereas he's probably coming off his career worst with the way things have gone for him last year. Injury, losing to Bivol, obviously, lackluster performance against Golovkin in the third and final fight, and like I say, timing is everything. I've come off the win against Jacobs and then Parker, so I just believe that the time is right for me now. I'm in the best headspace mentally and physically, so I just look forward to what can be.
And obviously, you know, I know you're an honest guy. I know that you obviously must rate Canelo massively, like we all do. But you're as big as I think 7 and a bit, maybe 8-1 underdog. Is that fair? Can you understand why that's the case or not?
Yeah, I get it. Listen, the bookies can call it what they want. There'll be a few people earning some money that night, but it is what it is. There's got to be an underdog, and I'm happy to take that role. I feel like I often perform at my best when I've got that label on me. So this fight will be no different.
Yeah, no, I agree with that statement, absolutely. And also, you were there Saturday at the O2. I wanted to get your reaction to Anthony Joshua with his points win over Jermaine Franklin. Not many people called it. I actually did.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see it. I think I was hoping to see a vintage AJ come out, a real dog, and just blast through him. But it's hard, man. So third trainer in 3 fights now. And I know, like, change your trainer, it takes time to adjust. So, I mean, don't expect him to run before he can walk. There's new things being drilled into him, new regimes and whatnot. So, it takes time, do you know what I mean? Rome weren't built in a day and stuff. I think we see signs of improvement. His hand placement was nice. He was sitting inside in the pocket a bit, catching shots from the gloves. We didn't see the big combos, the 1-2, finishing off with the backhand, like the hook to the body or the head. But listen, it was like we look at the Franklin that gave Dillian White a fight, and AJ's outboxed him for 12 rounds. Really, do you know what I mean? So it's like there's always got to be comparisons, but he pushed them both. Do you know what I mean? So that sets out for a good third fight between Dillian and AJ now.
Yeah, if you count the amateur one, yeah. A lot of people obviously wanted to see Anthony Joshua, like you say, get in there, be the vintage AJ, smash him in the first half of the fight. It's something that's kind of crazy now, but he hasn't knocked anyone out in the first half of a fight for, I think, 6.5 years, which is so mad. So I just couldn't see him doing it with Franklin, and thought that 4-1 for points was quite nice. Obviously, it came in. Moving on, though, did you get to see Benavidez plant, John?
I didn't see it. I've seen the highlights. I've not done it out for the fight, and I've not watched it back as of yet. But I think, listen, Benavidez is a huge super middleweight, and I thought the sheer size of him would be nigh on impossible for Plant to win anyway, because he is a Mexican monster. He is a monster. He's huge. He's massive. I don't know how much longer he's got at super middleweight, but I don't think it'd be too long.
Yeah, and I mean, you got bigger fish to fry right now anyway, so forget about them little ones.
That's it.
Just finally, John, just coming to the end, man, like I say, always great having you on. Any closing words to the listeners before we let you go, my man?
No, just thank you for the support. You've been there through the good, you've been there through the bad, and you kept the faith, so thank you to all your listeners and yourself. We got there eventually, and it's all about the hard work's not done yet. There's still hard work to remain, still a fight to win, but it's looking good.
It certainly is, man. I'm absolutely over the moon for you. Like I say, I don't think anyone can begrudge you this opportunity. Listen, John, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, my man. Best of luck out there in Mexico, May 6th, and we'll speak sometime afterwards. And the new.
Lovely. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it, mate.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. We're going to start here with this one. 3 fights have been added to that Gervonta Davis-Ryan Garcia undercard. We're going to see the WBA Super-Middleweight champion David Morrell Jr. get in there with Sena Agbeko, who is a massive puncher. That's in the co-main there. We're also going to see Gabe Rosado rematch Bektamir Melekuziev, the bully. Obviously, people will remember Gabe Rosado getting that unbelievable knockout win, the best knockout of 2021 or whenever it was, 2022, I can't remember now. So it's great to see that fight again. Elsewhere on that card, we'll see the undefeated 19-year-old Elijah Garcia getting in there with Mexico's Kevin Salgado as well. So that's 3 fights there added to that card. In other news, yeah, a bit of a mad one actually. Amir Khan has reportedly failed a drugs test off the back of that Kell Brook fight that he had. Obviously, he ended up losing that fight and he's been handed a 2-year ban. I cannot remember right now what the drug is, and I probably should have had it written down somewhere, but whatever drug it is, Amir Khan has denied obviously taking the drug, and he's been slapped with a 2-year ban, which he pretty much laughed off and said he's retired anyway. Like, what's the point of giving me this ban? I don't really care about it. But he does want to fight to clear his name. He says he's innocent, so I guess we're going to see more on that one. But it's a lot of outrage that we're seeing this reported so far after that fight. I think it's been over a year now since that fight, and we're only just hearing about these findings, which is crazy. And in other news, a very quick turnaround for Lawrence Okoli. He defends his WBO World Cruiserweight title against Chris Billum-Smith, his former gym mate. Obviously, they both trained under Shane McGuigan. Lawrence Okoli didn't look too great. What was it, 2 weeks ago when he boxed whoever he boxed, David Light, I think it was. But here we go. He gets in with Chris Billum-Smith. And yeah, the date for that is May 27th. It's going down at Bournemouth FC Stadium there. So it's a very, very quick turnaround there for Lawrence Okoli. In other news, one cruiserweight cracker to mention as well. We're going to see it go down. It's going to be live on BT Sport at the York Hall, Friday the 12th of May. We're going to see Ellis Zorro fighting for the vacant WBO European Cruiserweight title against Hosea Burton. So that's just a bit of an under-the-radar fight there that I think could be quite interesting, could be quite fun. What else do we have to round it off? May the 20th, we're going to see Oscar Valdez take on Adam Lopez. That's a rematch there. And also a good fight. I really like this one. Raymond Muratalla gets in with Jeremiah Nakafila. That one is going to be on the Haney Lomachenko pay-per-view undercard at the MGM Grand. So, yeah, so look out for those 2 fights there on that undercard there. That is it, though, for the news. Moving out now to Japan. We're going to start here at the Ariake Arena in Kotoku in Tokyo. Over here, a few fights to mention. Kenshiro Teraji, he gets in with Anthony Olaskuaga, who I'm not entirely sure is. Haven't seen him fight before. He's only 5-0, but he gets in there with Taraji, which seems a bit mad in only a 6th fight. It's for the WBA Super and WBC World Light Flyweight titles. Kenshiro Taraji, the big favourite there. Takuma Inoue, 17-1, gets in with tough man Liborio Solis, 35-6 with a draw. Remember him fighting Jamie McDonnell and losing extremely narrowly in Monaco one time. That is for the vacant WBA World Bantamweight title. We're also going to see Kiko Martinez, the Spanish legend, 44-11 with 2 draws these days. He gets in with Raya Abe, who is 24-3 with a draw. He's a slight underdog, Kiko Martinez, but there might be some smart money on him. I've looked through this guy, Raya Abe's record, and I'm not impressed at all by what I'm seeing. So I'm not sure what that's all about, but he is travelling, so maybe you might have to dig deep, but he has dug deep before, and all the best to him. Moving out now to this one, just another complete under-the-radar fight to mention, which I bet probably no other podcast will mention, but this one goes down at the Peacock in Canning Town. Just one fighter to mention on this card over here. It's the return to the ring for Armit Patterson, who, if you've been a boxing fan for a long time, especially if you follow the domestic scene here in the UK, you might remember him. He hasn't boxed for over 7 years. He's undefeated, his record's 17-0, but he was going to be fighting Liam Williams, I believe, for the British title at the time, and he was jogging, doing his road work, and then he had some kind of disagreement while he was running along with a bunch of guys, and something happened, and I believe they chased after him with a brick, hit him over the head, and we haven't seen him in 7 years. So he's back here, so good luck to him. No opponent just yet, but he's back at welterweight over 4 rounds there. So yeah, I think he's been doing some private one-on-one training and stuff, and a bit of modelling, if I'm not mistaken, in the meantime. So all the best to him there on his return to the ring. Long time out there. Moving now to the Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California, USA. This one's going to be live on Showtime. Let's fly through this. We've got Chris Arreola ready. Cannot believe he's still going. 38-7 with a draw. He gets in with Matthew McKinney, who's 13-6 with 3 draws. That's over 8 rounds there. We've got Gabriela Fundora, the towering Inferno's sister. 10-0. She gets in with Maria Santizo, who's 11-2. That's over 8 2-minute rounds there at flyweight. I can't believe she's only a flyweight. She's massive for that weight. She's super tall, just like Sebastian Fundora. Also on the card, we don't really like watching him too often. Frank Sanchez, 21-0. He gets in there with Daniel Martz, who's 20-10 with a draw. I think Daniel Martz has been knocked out in all 10 of his losses. They're taking bets to see if the fight will even go past 1 round. So Frank Sanchez expected to get an early knockout. Also on the card, Gabriel Maestra, who's 4-0 with a draw. A draw last time out to that guy from the Ukraine. I think his name's Taras Shelastuk, and he was an undefeated fighter, I believe, and that was a bit of a kind of questionable draw. And then the fight before that, if we don't forget, was when he completely blatantly got a gift decision against Michael Fox. Well, he's back in a 10-rounder here against Devon Alexander, who of course is way over the hill now. All the best to Devon Alexander though, because I want to see this guy Maestra beat, I think, because I think he's very, very, very lucky to not already have perhaps 2 losses on his record. I think his record should be like 3-2. But yeah, Devon Alexander probably not going to have enough left in the tank to win this one. 27-7 with a draw. Friend of the show. All the best to him. Elsewhere on the card, we also have Brandon Lee, 27-0. Loves the knockout. It's over 10 rounds. He gets in there with Pedro Campa, who is 34-2 with a draw. I think he was the fighter that Teofimo Lopez boxed in his first fight at 140, if I'm not mistaken. And I think he got him out there, if my memory serves me correct, about round 6, round 7, somewhere around there. It's going to be a good test, I think, though, for Brandon Lee, because I don't think Teofimo found Campa that easy. Also on the card, Luis Nunes, 18-0, gets in there with Christian Bereda, who is 20-0 with a draw. That could be exciting there, over 10. And then all eyes to the main event for the WBC Interim World Super Welterweight title. Sebastian Fundora, the Tower Inferno himself, 20-0 with a draw, over 12 rounds against Brian Mendoza, who's 21-2. They're expecting this one to go the distance, actually. And I don't know. I think it's going to be fun. It always is fun when we see the Towering Inferno. You know, he is like a stick in the wind, you know, when it's really windy and a stick is just flying back and forth. But he's brutal every way he sways. So I want to see him get the job done, hopefully by stoppage. Moving out now to the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey, USA. You might be there, Eddie. You might not. Maybe not. It's going to be live on ESPN. Topping the bill, Shakur Stevenson, 19-0, friend of the show. He gets in there with the undefeated Shushiro Yoshino, who's 16-0. It's over 12 rounds, of course, and it is Shakur Stevenson's first fight up at lightweight. I love watching him fight. He really is one of the boxers that you watch and say, this is an art, this game of boxing. It's not a brutal sport like a lot of people think it is. It's not 2 guys going in there, beating the hell out of each other, punching each other in the head. He makes boxing look, you know, like an art, like it's supposed to. And really excited to see how he looks here against Yoshino, who's a good fighter as well. He can certainly bang 12 KOs from his 16 wins. Been in there with some decent names, you know. Was able to beat Masayuki Ito. Was able to knock out, in his last fight, Masayoshi Nakatani, who, by the way, Lomachenko took 9 rounds to get rid of. Teofimo Lopez went the distance with. He got him out in 6 rounds, so that was quite impressive, and he's coming off of that. So he's in some good form. He's in the form of his career, it would appear. Also on the card, we should mention Keyshawn Davis. I love watching him fight as well. He gets in there. He's 7-0. He's in a 10-rounder. He gets in there with Anthony Yigit, who's 26-2 with a draw these days. I'd expect Keyshawn to get the stoppage there. I think he's just too accurate, too good. And is going to have too much really for Yigit, who at one point in his career was a really, really solid, durable, tough fighter. And, you know, he gave everyone a hard night's work over here in the UK. But when he's gone out there to the States, I think he boxed Baranchik over there, boxed Rolando Romero. You know, he's come up very short, and I don't think he's really got much left in the tank. So it's probably a great time to get him. Also on the card, it's going to be really good, this one, between two undefeated heavyweights. We've got Jared Anderson, the real big baby, friend of the show, 13-0 in a 10-rounder against George Arias, who's 18-0, the Dominican fighter, 7 KOs. Beat Cassius Chaney as well. He was actually the guy that took Cassius Chaney's O. He's got a couple of other standout names along his record. But yeah, I mean, Jared Anderson last time out looked brutal against Jerry Forrest. So I'm expecting the same for him. He's still got that 100% knockout streak running. So long may it continue. I love watching the real big baby fight. So good on his feet as well. And also on the card as well, recent friend of the show, he was on a few weeks ago, Troy Isley, 8-0. He gets in there with Roy Barringer, who's 9-3. That's over 8 rounds there. Never been stopped, Roy Barringer. So perhaps Troy Isley might be the first guy to do it. We shall see. All the best to him. All the best to Shakur as well on that card. And moving now to the final card to take place, the final card that we're going to mention at the Bowen Center in San Antonio, Texas, USA. It's going to be live on DAZN. Let's start with the undercard. We've got Mark Castro, 9-0, looking for double-figure wins. He gets in there with Ricardo Lopez Torres, who's 16-6 with 3 draws. It's over 8 rounds. All the best to Mark Castro, who has the best teeth in boxing, I always say. Israel Madrimov as well, 8-0 with a draw, gets in there with Rafael Igbokwe, who is 16-3. Now, I know that Igbokwe's done a lot of sparring in the past, I believe, with Regis Prograis. And I thought, okay, like he's supposed to be pretty good from what I heard. And I remember him fighting, Sergei Boachuk. And basically, yeah, he lost that fight. And I thought, wow, because, you know, obviously Boachuk is quite limited. Even though he can bang, he's got real, you know, hugely heavy hands. But he got him out of there in 6 rounds. That was his last fight, which was over a year ago now. He's been out the ring a year and a half. He gets in with Israel Madrimov, obviously coming off that technical draw last time out against Michel Soro, and the fight before that was a fight against Michel Soro as well. I think he just wants to leave Soro in the past and move on to brighter days, and he looks to do that against Rafael Igbokwe. So I'd expect him to do that. I think he'll probably stop him. I think if Boachuk can get you out of there, I think Madrimov probably will get him out of there, but I think he certainly wins. I don't think he loses this one. Moving up the card once again, Raymond Ford, 13-0 with a draw, gets in there with former world champion Jesse Magdaleno, 29-1. That one loss came to Isaac Dogbe, who we mentioned earlier on. It's over 12 rounds, no belt on the line, so I'm told. Really tough fight, I think. I mean, a lot of people say that Raymond Ford is the best prospect in world boxing. I think we're going to find out here for sure. I think he's looked really good at times, and some other times I don't think he's impressed me that much. But he gets in with Magdaleno, who, of course, probably isn't the same fighter he used to be. But he's coming off a couple of decent wins as well, I should mention as well, since losing to Dogbe. So it's certainly not going to be a walk in the park for Raymond Ford. So I'm really looking forward, I should say, to what we see from him. I think we're going to see a lot of answered questions, or a lot of questions asked, might be a better way of saying it. Elsewhere on the card as well, we're going to see Jesse Bam Rodriguez, 17-0. He gets in with Christian Hernandez, who's 15-1. It's for the vacant WBO World Flyweight title. I'm guessing Christian Hernandez somehow got himself into the top rankings or whatever. He must be ranked highly for this one to be for the vacant WBO. But I had never heard of this guy at all, and I'm going to hold my hands up and apologise if everyone knows who he is and I don't, and that means I'm not a hardcore boxing fan. But I was looking for his record. I was like, how did this guy get ranked in the top, in the top of the division, which I'm assuming he must have been to get the vacant shot. But yeah, this is just, this is Jesse Bam Rodriguez fight to win, and probably to win well, probably to win by knockout, and down at flyweight where I think he's more suited to anyway. So it's going to be good to see him back out again. He was very, very active last year. I think he fought God knows how many times, and I think by like the 4th or whatever fight he had of the year, the final fight he had of the year, I think was around December time, and he looked a bit like he was kind of spent, really, like it had been such a busy year. Obviously he's had a few months off here, and he comes back, and I'm expecting an explosive performance from him. And then the final fight to mention, the main event on this card, I believe it is, or maybe it's the chief support, I'm not entirely sure, but Murodjon Akhmadaliev, 11-0. He puts his IBF and WBA Super World Super Bantamweight titles on the line against the Filipino Marlon Tapales, who's 36-3. A lot of people were turning their nose up at this fight, saying that Akhmadaliev's going to win this quite easily and that Tapales isn't all that good. But I've got to say, in recent times, these Filipinos, man, they seem to just be turning it up when they're not expected to. Like they don't seem to feel much pressure in the big situations. And I give him a chance. I don't think I would want to bet on him to win, but I certainly do give him a chance. Just makes me think of recent times where Filipinos have upset the odds. I'm thinking of the guy that beat Jojo Diaz a few weeks ago. I'm thinking of Mark Magsayo, obviously beating Gary Russell Jr. So in recent times, the Filipinos have turned up and showed out, but I guess Tapales is probably a little bit more exposed than they were. He's got a couple of losses on the slate, and he's been around a long time as well. Like I said, that's why I say he's a bit more exposed. Been a pro for 15 years now, so yeah, we're gonna see what will happen there. But I guess Akhmadaliev probably should have a bit too much in the tank. But I do like seeing him fight, and he actually needs to go towards the bigger fights. I wanted to see him fight Stephen Fulton. I don't know if that's still on the table at the minute, but that'd be a cracking fight. I just want to see him in big fights. He's a unified world champion, only 11 fights in, and it's fantastic. But let's not stall it now. Let's go for the bigger fights and see what you can really do and really make yourself a household name. But yeah, brilliant fight, obviously, with Danny Roman. That was a real cracker there. But anyway, that brings the preview part to a close. In part 1, we did the review part. Then we welcomed our special guest, John Ryder. In part 2, we did the news. I've just wrapped up the preview part there. The final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 390 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A huge thank you to this week's special guest, the top super-middleweight world contender, Mr. John Ryder. All the best, of course, to him in his quest to become the undisputed super-middleweight champion of the world on May the 6th in Mexico. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners. Like I say, thanks once again for tuning in to this week's show. If you do have a spare 5 minutes, or not even that, a spare 2 minutes, please leave us a review on iTunes or on Spotify or wherever you listen to the podcast. It's available on all platforms. A little review really does go a long way. And if you want to improve your below the waist hygiene, then you can visit our sponsor www.manscaped.com and use that promo code BoxHard for 20% off plus free shipping. But that's about everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.